What is up, everybody? Chris Fluke here. Chris Fluke Podcast, episode 84. Today we're talking about physical activity, and I'm going to be cashing in a little bit on what we talked about. It might sound a little, there might be a little bit of a repeat here, a little redundant based off of last week's talk about walking away from a grave. But what we got here, we're going to look at three aspects of physical fitness. We're going to look at our non-exercise activity. That's everything that we do over the course of a day. We're going to look at strength training. We're going to look at cardiovascular training, condo, conditioning, whatever you want to call it. With all of these approaches that we're going to take here, we're going to be using this approach kind of known as creeping incrementalism, right? You know, I just read Marty Gallagher's Purposeful Primitive. It's a great book. It's 800 plus pages, but it gives you a lot. He breaks down just decades and decades of training principles, how the greats have done it in the past, in all forms of whether it's powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it may be. Diet, sleep, mindset, all that stuff. For today, for right now, we're just talking about physical activity, okay? So when we use that term creeping incrementalism, it means you start a little bit below your means, so to speak. So if you're capable of running at an 8 out of 10, you're going to start at a 7 out of 10, and then you're going to go 7.2, 7.4, 7.6, 7.8, 8, 8.2. So you slowly creep your way up until you get to that point where you kind of break through your previous best, and you continue to, work towards being a better version of yourself, right? So creeping incrementalism, slowly but surely. If you're in the weight room, we're going to add 2.5 pounds each week. Next thing you know, you're going to get yourself up to some new heights, I hope, okay? So going back to the three aspects now, we're going to review what we talked about with the walking, right? Non-exercise activity. The average American walks anywhere between 5,100 steps and 6,500 steps, all right? The goal for you as an individual, if you are a beginner, if you heard that noise, we're getting hit with some snow right now. We got salt trucks and plows going by. So if you're a beginner, if you're totally inactive, the goal is going to be to get up to that 5,100 mark. Once you get to there, maybe we get to 6,000, okay? Maybe once we get to 6,000, we could get to 6,500. And then from there, we're going to continue to creep our way up. Now, the reason we want to do that is this. A research study I cited in the previous episode said that when you compare the individuals that take 16,000 steps a day with those that take 6,000 steps a day, the group that took only 6,000, all right, had a 126% increase in all-cause mortality over the course of the next 10 years. So what does that mean? No, it could be any kind of death, right? Non-accidental death like a traffic accident, but heart disease, diabetes, COVID-19, whatever it may be, your chances of dying are going to increase by 126%. Now, a lot of you out there are going to say, I could barely get to 6,000. How am I going to get to 16,000, right? It's creeping incrementalism, all right? So you get from 6,000, you get to 6,500, right? From 6,500, you get to 7,000. Now, when you get from 6,000 to 7,000, your all-cause mortality rate is going to decrease by 12%. So instead of being at 126%, we're going to knock 12 off of that. Now we're down to 114%, right? Still a high number when you compare it to the 16,000 step group. But listen, we're creeping our way up. And every week, every month, whatever it may be, we're going to get to a newer height. So here's our challenge here with this, right? If you are totally inactive, you want to get to, let's use 6,000 as our mark, right? Let's get to that 6,000 step number. Once you get to there, let's start moving a little bit more. You start figuring out ways to add steps. You got 10 minutes, get up and walk around a little bit. You have that break at work, move, park further away. Every time you're on the phone, you go for a walk. You don't sit there and stare at the wall and do some doodling. You get up and you get moving. That is if you want to improve your physical fitness, okay? If you don't want to improve your physical fitness, stay idle, don't do anything, watch Netflix, and see where that gets you, right? One thing, too, I want to add with this. If you sit on your butt all day, the greatest way to negate an incredible workout is to sit idle for the rest of the day. I mean, there's some research on this. We're going to talk about it in a future episode. I mean, it happens with kids in school. It happens with everybody, that group that gets up and gets to work, or works out at 6 a.m. and then goes to work and sits on the butt for 9 hours. You still have those negative cardiovascular effects because you sat for 9 hours, right? That 45 to 60-minute workout does not negate the 9 hours of sitting that you did, okay? So keep that in mind. Get your steps up, all right? One great tool that I'm using is this Fitbit here. And I'm realizing this Fitbit here on my, you can't see it, whatever. I'm bundled up. The Fitbit, has been an incredible tool for me. It's making me realize how like if I do some computer work on a Sunday and we're at a coffee shop, Marisa and I hanging out, relaxing, 3-4 hours, I look at my thing where I usually have 12 or 13,000 steps. I'm at like 6,000. I'm like, holy crap, I understand what schools are doing to people. I understand what the working every day is doing to people. It's making them incredibly inactive. Fitbit's going to tell you that. Fitbit's going to help you see where your heart rate is, right? It's not perfect, but it's going to give you a gauge. It's $100 some, and it's been a great tool. As long as you don't get obsessed with it, right? Use it as a guide. It'll keep you moving. It'll be like, hey, you need 500 steps to get to 10,000. Cool. I'm gonna take a couple laps around the house till I get there. That kind of thing, right? So now we have our non-exercise activity. Get your steps up. Walk around the block. Go for a 20-minute walk. I'm gonna tell you how I incorporate walking steps in with all of the other stuff, right? So you could start, if you add walking in with your conditioning or your strength work days, right? Now we're getting our non-exercise activity up and we're maximizing what we did previously, right? So I'm going to touch on that now with the strength training, right? So the thing with me, I'm going to work out between 45 and 60 minutes on my strength days. So I'll do a strength workout and then I'll follow that up with a little loop that we got here. It's a pretty hilly loop, right? So the idea is this. You perform your strength training workout. Let's say it takes 25 to 40 minutes, right? And then you hit this loop, 20 minutes. The strength training gets your heart rate up to a certain level, and then when you go out and walk the hilly area, the Fitbit taught me that if you walk a certain route, it's going to keep your heart rate elevated in a certain point, which is where I want it to be. So then that way you're still training the cardiovascular system with like a moderately intense training, really. So when I do my strength days, I do the strength program and then I go outside and for a walk. I don't want this to ever exceed an hour just for time reasons, man. There's so much stuff that we got to do. I got a 3-year-old. I have a business. The list is endless, man. We all have stuff that we need to get that needs to get done. So to spend countless hours in the gym is not something I want to do. So I want to maximize my time. I'm doing it with strength training, hitting the big bang exercises, and then I'm doing it with a walk at the end. So when I talk about the big bang exercises, we're talking push, pull, squat, hinge. All right, if you think about it, you're pushing with the upper body, you're pulling with the upper body. The squat pushes with the lower body, the hinge pulls with the lower body. We're working the backside of our legs with the hinge primarily. Think about like a hamstring, glute area. The squat, we're getting a deep knee bend in, and we're kind of hitting the front side a little bit more. The push kind of works those, for the upper body, works those mirror muscles, the stuff in the front. The pull works that stuff that you don't see, but the muscles that matter the most, the stuff on the backside of the body, right? So how do I do the strength training? I stole this idea from Dan John's one program, this post-deployment plan. Basically, week 1, you do 1 set. Week 2, you do 2 sets. Week 3, you do 3 sets. Week 4, you do 4 sets, all right? Week 1, you do 25 reps of everything. If you talk to Chris Fluke 2 or 3 years ago and I said I'm doing 25 reps of something, I would have thought that man was crazy. But what this does on this week here, it gives you a quick workout to do where you practice the moves for a higher rep, light loads, you get the blood pumping, you go out for your walk, and then you have time to move on with the rest of your day. So the training kind of cycles in these little wave-like patterns here. You're going to have waves of lower intensity and quicker workouts, and then you're going to have some waves of some longer workouts with heavier weights where you're spending, that full 40 minutes pumping iron. Those are the days I kind of like, by the way, because the reps are low, weights up, makes me feel good, right? So week 2, you do 2 sets of 15. As you can see, the sweet spot for all of this is going to be around 25 to 30 reps, all right? That's the, Prilipin's table, 24 to 30 reps is kind of the sweet spot for, hypertrophy and strength building, we'll say, right? Week 3, you do 3 sets of 8. Week 4, you do 4 sets of 5. Creeping incrementalism, right? We have to keep it in mind. If I'm doing 45 pounds for 25 reps, I'm going to creep my way up to do 65 pounds and then 75 pounds, say, for the 15 rep days. And then on those 8 rep days, I'm going to go 85, 95, 105, right? And on those 5 rep days, I'm going to go 105, 115, 125, 135, right? So we're creeping our way up every week, and we're doing a little bit more with each set. Usually where you end up, say I'm doing that week of 2 sets of 15, let's say I do 65 and 75, I'm doing this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, by the way. The same exercises, the same rep scheme. So on Monday, if I did 65, 75, on Wednesday, I'm going to want to do 70 and then 80. And then on Friday, I'm going to want to do, 75 and 80 or 85, right? So our starting weight is going to increase with each workout. When I do the 3 sets of 8, If I start at 85 on Monday, my starting weight is going to be 90 on Wednesday, 95 on Friday, okay? And then you get the idea, right? When I'm on my four sets of 5 week, I'm starting at 95 pounds. Then Wednesday, you start at 100. Friday, you start at 105, and you creep your way up, okay? The idea is to get a little bit stronger, a little bit better. You don't want to take these big jumps where your technique might get offended. Again, we're creeping our way up there, all right? This is a great time to be a creeper and get those small little increments as you make an improvement on where you're at, right? So that's it, push, pull, squat, and hinge. For my push exercise, I'm gonna put one knee on the ground and get into a tall kneel position. I'm gonna cut a video on this. I'll try to link it up to this video then. Or just go to the YouTube page. We're gonna go half kneeling, one arm press. What does that mean? Right knee's on the ground, right arm is gonna press. So you're in this kneeling position. Do all your reps on one side, switch your knees, switch your arms. My pull exercise, again, this is Dan John's post-deployment program. I'm gonna hang for 30 seconds, then I'm gonna pull myself up one time. I'm doing that a bunch. There's gonna be some days where I'm gonna test it out. My goal is to get up to 4 of those, right? So 30-second hang, 1 pull up. 30-second hang, 1 pull up. So every 2 weeks, roughly, we'll say, I see where I'm at. I did 2 last time. This week, I'll probably try for 3. All right, and then when I reboot the program again, 4 is going to be the goal, right? Or if I do 3, if I say I'm going to do 3 today and I'm feeling good and I go for 4, then I'm going to go for 4. You understand? All right, so every so often, every 1 to 2 weeks, I test that out and see if I could add an extra rep, right? But really what I'm doing there is I'm hanging. Sometimes I just do a hang, 1 minute hang. All right, it feels good on the shoulders, it loosens me up a bit, and it kind of gets me prepared for what I'm doing later. Now my goal for the next exercise is going to be our squat. Oh, I'm sorry, and this is the order I do it. I do the push, I do the pull, and then I actually do the hinge, which I'm doing a rack pull. What does a rack pull look like? It's kind of like an RDL, except when you lower the bar sits on the safety squat bar, the pin's on the squat stand, on the squat rack, sorry. So the bar rests either above knee level or right below knee level. You get into your hinge, boom, and you explode the hips, you squeeze your glutes at the top, and you stand up with the weight, right? And then you lower the bar back to the safety pins, and then bam, you explode up into it. I'm doing rack pulls above the knee. When I reboot the program, next go around, when I'm done with my 12 sessions, when I restart, I'm gonna go rack below the knees, and now use the same weights that you did with rack above the knees, except now the range of motion is a little bit lower, right? Creeping incrementalism. All right, so I'm doing rack pulls, and then lastly, the main event. I use that single arm press. Because you're in that kneeling position, you get a hip flexor stretch, right? With the hanging, I'm getting my shoulders kind of loose just by hanging there and letting everything just kind of dislocate there and just relax and drop into that hang. There's no activation or anything going on. I'm literally just hanging until I do the pull up. With the rack pull, I'm starting to get the posterior warmed up. I'm popping my glutes into that bar, getting the hamstring stretch, and then exploding into it. So I'm getting some lower body muscles activated now, so I'm gonna be ready for that main event, which for me this year is the overhead squat, right? My goal for the overhead squat is to overhead squat my body weight. So what am I doing? I'm trying to get my body weight down to 185. I'm around 189 right now. And then I wanna be able to do it 185 for 1, all right? But then Dan John says if you can't do your body weight for 15, actually he doesn't say anything. He said that's the ultimate standard, body weight for 15. Where did he pick that up from? Some Olympic lifting coaches decades ago, right? I don't know too many people that are doing their body weight for 15 in the overhead squat, so that's why I'm gonna try to do it, okay? So that is my goal. That's why I'm doing overhead squats. If you've never done a squat before, do a body weight squat, transition into a goblet squat, and then I would recommend trying to learn a front squat or a safety bar squat, right? And then lastly, if you want to mess around with something like the overhead squat, that's it. That's when you do it. You do it when you're already mastered, when you already got 7 or 8 years in of other squatting. And you know what I'm saying? You got to put some time in with some of this stuff. Don't just rush into the advanced stuff. Again, it's creeping incrementalism. You start basic. You start a little bit below the level you can do, and you spend a lot of time there, and you slowly inch your way to progress, right? So we got our non-exercise activity, right? We want to get to anywhere from 6,000 to 16,000. If you get to 16,000 steps a day on average over the course of a week, you're doing one hell of a job. Keep it up. Strength training now. 1 set, week 1. 2 sets, week 2. 3 sets, week 3. 4 sets, week 4. 1 set of 25, 2 sets of 15, 3 sets of 8, 4 sets of 5. Push, pull, squat, hinge. Don't even clean a thing up. Get outside, okay? take that 20-minute power walk, keep your heart rate elevated where it wants to be. Now, I learned this too with the Fitbit. I could walk the same trail, the same loop. If I go one way, it starts out very level. And then there's a intense incline, and then it's kind of downhill for a while. When I go that way, because of that steady start, basically that level start, my heart rate returns to a low level and I don't get it back up. So I have to walk in a certain direction in order for me to sustain that heart rate. It was an interesting thing that I learned the other day, is that if I walk out, my heart rate's up, I start power walking, then I hit a little bit of an incline, then I come down, and then I hit a longer incline. Being a longer incline, not a steeper incline, a longer one, right? A less steep, more shallow incline, that's where I want to be at for long periods of time, because it keeps my heart rate in that sweet spot, which is for me, I don't know, anywhere between like 105 and 120. If you get your arms swinging, man, old school power walking, it's amazing what happens when you get 4 limbs involved. So that's how I approach my post-lift walk. So now we have this conditioning, right, which is no lift, just conditioning, right? 2 to 4 times a week, we're saying. So maybe on Monday, Wednesday, Friday you lift, Tuesday, Thursday, weekend, you try to do something, right? Cardiovascular in nature. 2 to 4 times a week. I'm saying start at 2, start below. If you could do 3, fine. Make sure you get 2 every week. And then once you get that, for 2 to 4 weeks, then you add that 3rd day. If you're getting sore, you should be doing the same stuff again. Repeat that same stuff. Try not to add anything new until that soreness kind of subsides, all right? So let's say you start 20 minutes twice a week. Perfect, right? Monitor your heart rate. Try to get 60 to 70% of, say, your age-related max heart rate, okay? 220 minus your age, if you're a beginner. 220 minus your age. So if you're 50 years old, 220 minus 50 is 170. Then you take 60 to 70% of that number, and that's where you want to live for the 20 minutes roughly, okay? Now, in order to get to 20 minutes of that, you might have to do a 5-minute walk just to kind of get moving. Do you understand that? So it's not just 20 minutes. You might need to do that warm-up. You might need to get the heart rate elevated, and then you want to maintain that level for 20 minutes, okay? Ideally, we get into those work zones for 20 to 75 minutes a week. Those more intense work zones, all right? It might be a light jog. It might be a rowing machine, right? It might be the bicycle. It might be swimming, right? But we want 20 to 75 minutes in that zone, we'll say, all right? So if you do a 20-minute walk and you're only in that zone for 12 minutes, then that's it. Then that's what you write down. That's what you record. 12 minutes in this zone, 8 minutes in that zone. I did a cool down, blah, 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 right? So let's just start with this. If you're a total beginner, 20 minutes twice a week. All right, if you get 60 to 70% of your max heart rate, that's a good place to be, right? If you want to exceed that, you use creeping incrementalism again, right? Add 2.5 minutes a week. All right, so then for your walks this week, you're going to do 22.5 minutes. Then you're going to do 25 minutes, then 27.5 minutes, then 30 minutes, right? And then once you get to 30 minutes, we're going to try to go from twice a week to 3 times a week, then 3 times a week to 4 times a week. And then from there, you're going to try to work your way up to 40 minutes with every session, right? Once you get to 40 minutes a few times a week of actually getting some cardiovascular work in where you're 60, 70% in your heart rate zone, now we're gonna try to add something else. What do I like to add? I like to add this 4x4 protocol. It's literally been proven to add years onto your life. Finnish study, I think it's Finland, so if you look in a 4x4 interval program, you'll be able to find this online. What this is a 10-minute warm-up, okay? And then you do a 4-minute hard interval, 85 to 90% and above. So we're bursting, man. We're going hard. If you're on a bicycle, you're ripping it as hard as you can. If you're out there jogging, you're getting that heart rate up into that 90% zone. You do that for 4 minutes, then you walk for 3 minutes. 4x4 means 4 4-minute intervals. So you do 4 on, 3 off, 4 on, 3 off, 4 on, 3 off, 4 on, 3 off, cool down. Okay? What did I do this week for that? Tuesday, had a morning off, dropped Amelia off to preschool, did an hour of work, walked 10 minutes to where I knew that there was a flat strip of land, and I just ran flat. I realized that if I could run faster on flat land, right? That's obvious. But I got my heart rate up higher on flat land than I did running hills, because I think hills just totally destroy you, that you can't move at a rate fast enough to get elevated. I don't know what it was, man, but I was able to. And I guess the hill runs out eventually, and it does level off, and the heart rate dips. But on that flat land, you can kind of regulate where you are, and you could stay in a certain zone for longer. So I learned that this week. That's me, right? That's not everybody. So again, with conditioning, 2 to 4 times a week. I'm only going to do that 4x4 protocol once a week right now until the soreness goes away. All right? That's it. I mean, I might try it. I did it on Tuesday. Maybe I'll try it on Sunday, that 5-day rest period or whatever that is. Maybe I'll try that. But really, I'm thinking Tuesday and Tuesday for now, and then eventually add another day and maybe a Friday or something like that. But I got to get rid of the soreness, man, because I don't want to be sore going into the strength training program because I know I'm going to be lifting on Wednesday, right? So I don't want to wipe my legs out on Tuesday. That kind of happened this week. But anyway, what happened then? I took Wednesday off from lifting and just lifted on Thursday, right? So I got to get a weekend strength session in, which is fine. I don't lose sleep over it. It's all good, right? Now, what we talked about here is just physical activity, right? No diet talk, no sleep talk. Basic recommendations, I'm going to get into this later, future episodes, right? With diet, I try to keep all my eating in a 10-hour window, all right? Less would be better for some, worse for others. I don't know. I'm just doing what works for me. So I'll eat in a 10-hour window. You could call it intermittent fasting. You could call it time-restricted eating. I don't know. I eat in a 10-hour window. I try not to eat crap, and I try to eat 1 salad a day. All right? 10-hour eating window, 1 salad a day. That seems to do the trick for me. With sleep, 8 hours in bed, minimum. So if you're going to wake up at 6 a.m., get into bed by 10. It doesn't mean that you're going to be sleeping from 10 to 6, but just get in bed by 10 o'clock. So you count backwards. 8 hours from your wake-up time. This is just a basic recommendation. 8 hours before your wake-up time, get into bed. Hopefully you could fall asleep shortly after getting into bed, and you can get a good night's rest, all right? Again, a Fitbit was a great tool for me. Get your steps up, people. You want to live a longer, healthy life, you can literally do so by walking more. Once you get that walking in your routine, maybe you can start adding some strength training in. Basic stuff, all right? Our push exercise could literally be that half kneeling, 1-arm press. We could all do that. But if we can't, you could hold a push-up position. You could hold a push-up position with your knees on the ground. That occupies our push. For a pull, hang from a bar. For a squat, do a body weight squat if you're a beginner. If you're able to do that, do a lightweight goblet squat. For our hinge, pick something up off the ground, stand up. Do that, all right? That's all it is, all right? This doesn't have to be complex. Be smart. If you're getting sore, don't move on too fast. That's why we're using creeping incrementalism. For our conditioning, twice a week, 20 minutes. If you could do that, start adding 2.5 minutes to it, okay? But again, don't go from 20 minutes to 40 minutes and then totally wipe yourself out to the point that you can't exercise the next day, or you get so discouraged about your lack of fitness that you eventually stop, or you start dreading those 40-minute sessions so much that you just quit working out altogether. All right, one more thing. After the strength training, again, remember, don't even clean up, get outside and go for that 20-minute power walk, all right? That's how I break down physical activity. I think anybody could break it down. I think anybody could do this, right? I feel that if you could get the steps up, get a good coach, have them help you with the strength training stuff, or start learning on your own. I think that's the best. If you could just empowering every individual to put a program together and to train on their own, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think that that's something that's going to equal long-term success, kind of with all this stuff, man. Hope you guys like this. If you have any questions, YouTube, chrisfluke.net's the website. You could find gym information there. You could find my blog there. You could find podcast information there. Go and subscribe to the pop-up, and you can get my weekly newsletter, The Weekly Word. All right, I've been pumping this thing out every Sunday morning, 7:30 a.m. for a few years now. It's fun. I enjoy putting it together. It's a challenge, but hey, we all need challenges in life, right? chrisfluke.net. Go to my YouTube page, like, subscribe. Guys, please share this with other people. I'm trying to get this word out here. We're trying to build something here to try to serve our local community and beyond a little bit better, right? So if you think this applies to anybody, tell them to check it out. Share the YouTube link. We're on Spotify, Google Play. By the way, shout out to Spotify for holding firm and supporting the voices that are on their podcast. I think that's a great thing, right? More media companies need to kind of protect speech and protect free speech, So Spotify, Google Play, Apple, all that. We're out there, man. Check us out. Peace, everybody. Hope you have a great day.